Good morning.
Hello. Welcome to week 2 of our Thrive Live videos.
We're going to talk about more than just week 2 stuff, but yes.
Yes.
We've got a whole list of things for you.
All sorts of things that we've come up with this week that we've dealt with or talked to people about, or even had things go on here that...
This piece of hair that doesn't want to lay down. Oh, well.
So the first thing we're talking about is kid schedule and adult work schedule. And that's prompted by, we've come across people that have talked about how when their husband works later, like they don't get home till 8, that they're keeping little kids up until dad comes home. And this, in theory, sounds really nice to give the dad some more time with kids. But the problem is then the kids aren't getting the sleep they need, and then they're cranky and they're crabby.
And then they're no fun for mom when she has to take care of them the next day.
So that's, it's one of those sacrifices.
It is, and I think that, what we have to think about is whenever we're doing anything parenting-wise, like arranging our schedule or anything, we have to really look at what the needs of the child are, and they trump the needs of mom and dad. They just do, because we have stewardship over them, and that's really hard. I mean, I know sometimes moms are like, but this is killing me. And I go, but we made these choices, and so you have to find other ways to get, your time to yourself, but you've got to make sure that you really work on the needs of the child. And with regards to sleep, their needs are gigantic. And so, really, especially if you've got a young child. Now, I think if we're talking about, a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old, then they're fine. But we're talking about little kids, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, even 8. They really need to be in bed by like 7:30 or 8, and at least. And if they're not napping and they're younger, then you've got to think about that even more, because really a non-napping child really needs to be in bed at like 7. Especially if they're really young. And I know that sort of goes, well, we don't eat dinner till 7. Well, you need to back it up. That's part of understanding rhythm, and that's part of sort of understanding your child's needs. And it goes into this whole thing about the whole family thriving, not just you just don't want to thrive the two of you. You want to be able to have, you're rested, they're rested. So if dad's not coming home till 8, and then he's trying to get bedtime, I want you to be really examining, okay, there's yelling going on at bedtime, there's hard feelings, and dad's frustrated and I'm frustrated. It's because you've got kids that are overtired, and so you've got to really work on the sleep thing. And we have a lot of sleep videos on our Waldorf Essentials videos, and we not a lot, but a couple different places where we talk about rhythm and sleep. So if you've got questions about sleep, please ask us, because we have 5 children. We understand sleep.
Well,
we understand lack of sleep.
It can be a vicious cycle once it starts.
It can be, because it's so hard to get them to settle back down, and if you wait until they come home and they're so excited to see dad. So while it may be sad, what I would do is I would find a way. You can really hear those parrots this morning. Sorry, we live in Ocean Beach by the ocean, and we have a band of parrots, and they're really loud today. But if you can really look at your schedule and say, okay, this is where maybe we can get some concentrated dad time. Maybe that means that dad has them for a chunk of 4 hours on Saturday, and you get a break, and he takes them, and he's got them, and he's having fun with them, and he does the fun stuff with them then. I think that's a much better option than keeping them up until dad comes home.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, what else is on our list today?
Slowing the momentum. What to do.
What to do about fighting, like when you're fighting with each other.
And that's a tricky balance, because when you're really super mad, it's probably best to step away until you cool off. But then you can wait too long, and then it's like, no, they're not talking to me.
Right.
So there's a balance of figuring out, when it's time to be done, because there's too much emotion going on, and people might be prompted to say things they ought not, or say things out of anger or spite.
Well, I think temperament has so much to do with it, I think the sanguine and the choleric are more likely to spout off and walk away, and then be able to come back and re-enter the situation, where a phlegmatic or a melancholy will not. Like, they might chase you. They might be like, no, we need to talk about it right now.
There's been times that we've had a disagreement, and I've kept my distance for way longer than I should have.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, well, she's mad at me, so I'm just going to go over here and
And
do
I'm like,
this.
wait a
And
minute.
it's like, don't you want to talk about this? And like, yeah, but I
Yeah.
didn't know when that was okay to do.
So you have to communicate, but honestly, so many, like a few of the couples that we're working with right now, actually all of them, really have a hard time like with disagreements and fighting, and when to stop, and really the time to slow the momentum is when you're wanting to yell. And so then if you're wanting to yell like immediately, then you have to step back and go, all right, what is it that we're fighting about so much? Are you fighting consistently about money, about raising children, about your in-laws? Like, what is it that you're consistently fighting about? Because I wouldn't say that you and I have anything that we consistently fight about. Nothing, because we rarely fight. And even when we do fight, it's seriously like, okay, I'm walking away now because I'm really frustrated right now, and I'll be back. And that's usually, that's the way that I found, because, I was an unchecked choleric for a lot of years, and I would just be in there and fight right back. And that was a really nasty dynamic with my ex-husband, because he was like, he just wanted to chase you. So then he chased me and I'd fight, and he chased me and I'd fight, and that would be like, we get nowhere. And so really part of learning how to become healthy in your temperament is sort of figuring out, okay, at what point do I need to walk away? And really, if your ego is coming out immediately, then you have to look at why. Like, why you got these big feelings,
Well, because one thing we talked about was like keeping score.
Oh,
and sometimes
some temperaments
you get
really
in an
keep score.
argument about something, and then all of a sudden it becomes about all the things that you resent over the last while, and then the other person's blindsided by, I can't believe we're talking about this, and run across like
Right, the stuff that happened like 6 months ago, rather than, and I would say that that's definitely more a phlegmatic or melancholy trait, because you, holy cow, remember everything, but not like in a fighting way. Like, he remembers everything. And I have a brain like a sieve, and I had a stroke a few years ago, so he could tell me things. He could, like, after my stroke, he used to tell me that we used to do ballroom dancing. I was like, I know we didn't do that, but maybe we did, because he remembers everything and I remember nothing. He had some fun with me, but no, I mean, really, there's certain temperaments where they remember much more, and they're more apt, especially, and I would say, if in the phlegmatic's mind, if the phlegmatic has it resolved, then they're not going to bring it back up. But if the melancholy is not very balanced, they can get passive aggressive and be digging then, because the whole world is sad for them, kind of thing,
And a sanguine, well, once it's happened, it's done and it's over with.
Right.
Whereas
Totally.
there's times where, like, I've had times where, like, especially, like, sometimes our teenage daughter and I get into it, and sometimes I think about stuff she did all week, and then she's like, why are
you mad at me about that now?
And it's because I didn't deal with it when it happened, because I
Right.
held on to it a bit, and then I was thinking about, well, she did this and this and this and this.
Right,
and
rather than say on Monday, hey, you did this and it really irritated me, and then being done with it.
Yeah.
So we have a question here. How do you force yourself to walk away? How do you develop that self-discipline? Well, I think that for me, like, in the time that I've learned to do that, a lot of it was because I saw what it did in my life before. And that's one of those things where it's sometimes we have a hard time learning from others. But if you are having explosive moments where you are really struggling with, like, not fighting and shouting, especially in front of your children, you are an adult person. And that's what I came to. I came to this, I am a grown-ass woman, and I need to be checking my mouth. I have to be. And so I had to come to that realization that I was part of the problem. And in order to come to that realization, I had to have some humility about it. I had to be realizing that when there's fights that are going on, I might not be the one that starts it, but it takes two people to fight. And if one of you steps out of that equation, then the other person has got to learn how to just chill out about it. And you've got to step away and be able to walk away and sort of recoup your center as well. And so, those are like rules of engagement. I think you really have to know how to walk away, and it just comes with practice. So the things that I do that really help me is, when you're feeling angry, when it's coming, you can feel it. You can feel it in your stomach. You get this tightness in your chest. You just want to explode word vomit on the person in front of you. And so rather than doing that, you need to say to yourself, okay, I love this person. I might be really mad at them right now or really frustrated, because usually anger is a secondary emotion. There's either sadness or frustration there, in that you're trying to get the other person to understand what you're saying, and maybe they're not understanding, or you're not understanding why they did something. And so you've got to like back up that anger. And so when you feel it here, that's when you have to either take some deep breaths, and if you can't get a hold of it, that's when you say, I love you, I'm walking away for right now. And then that other person, has to be okay with you walking away. Now, that doesn't mean you walk away for forever, because like we said, sometimes we're like, okay, wait a minute, we've been away for too long. Mm-hmm. And so when you do walk away, the purpose of you walking away is for you to check your ego and for you to get humble about, like, okay, why is it that I'm fighting? Why is it? What's going on here? Let me back my ego out of this. Are my feelings hurt? And if so, why are my feelings hurt? So it's giving you the opportunity to really examine why you're upset and why you want to fight to begin with. Now, you might be saying, but it's because she did this to me, or he did this to me, and to that I say you have to step back, because every time there's something going on, there's something that you either missed. And it doesn't matter if they did something that was like horrible. You've either missed like why. There's a lack of communication. Like, instead of coming together and doing this, you went like this. And so, because I do believe that in general, all the couples that we work with don't try to do things to make the other person mad. And so, you have to take them, give them the benefit of the doubt. And that can be really hard if you're in a struggling relationship. But if you're here and you're working on this program with us, then you have to be able to give each other the benefit of the doubt, I think. I think you have to be able to say, he didn't do that just to piss me off, or she didn't do that just because she's angry at me. And then be able to step back, take a deep breath, get your ego in check. And what do I mean by getting your ego in check? Like, when your ego is in check, then you're not coming back in the situation wanting to fight again. You're sort of stepping back, and then you have a discussion about it. And go ahead.
Oh, well, one thing I try to do every time, like if you say something that I don't necessarily like to hear or want to hear, I always ask myself, does she have a point?
Oh, totally. And sometimes that makes us mad when we have to go.
And most of the time, yes, you do have a point, and so I can't get super mad because it's coming from somewhere legitimate, and so it's something to talk about, even though it might be like, oh,